Oh baby, we're talking about the 80s. So how is it going, everybody? I get asked this question all the time, and I thought, you know what? Let's make a video. The secrets to sounding 80s. First off, you always got to throw in that high-pitched voice every once in a while to really sound. No, I'm joking. I'm not do that. You do need an 80s guitar. Again, joking. I can't stop. I'm out of control. No, basically, you need a bunch of distortion, a bunch of power chords, the Aeolian mode, and delay, big bends. Yo, that's it. Half power chords. I'm gonna cover it all. So I'm actually gonna tab out a few of the sections, just like the rough ideas of what I'm talking about. So if you want to grab those tabs, you can. Those are down below. You could check out my free guitar course if you're feeling like it. It's actually gonna deal relatively close to a lot of the stuff we're gonna talk about today. So other than that, what do you say we go ahead and we get our 80s on and let's talk about it. First things first, the art of 80s tone. Now, I feel like I have a pretty dang 80s tone. Lots of distortion on this thing. I am playing my Axe Specs. This is my old Charvel Crackle. So this guitar is actually from the 80s. So it is like authentically 80s. Played authentic. And essentially, like I said, I have a lot of distortion going on, but it rolls up nicely. And like I said, part of it is you want it to be very fat, a thick sound. I have delay on, which I love. I never get to use delay in videos because usually I'm showing you guys something, but I have delay on now. Woo! It makes me happy. Now, like I said, the tone is meant to be pretty saturated. And it's not thin because, you know, a lot of the 80s tone, a lot of the riffs are played on the higher strings. So you need to have a lot of thickness to the tone. Sometimes the 80s tone was a little bit thinner, but the overall, you know, deciding factor to me of 80s tone is it has quite a bit of reverb on it. You can hear how, listen to this tone. Let me see if I can do this. Listen to this tone without the reverb on. I'll kill the reverb and delay. And I'll let you hear exactly how big of an impact. I use a medium room style reverb, but here's the without everything. Like I said, it still sounds 80s because I'm playing 80s style, but here it is with the reverb. A lot more 80s. And also, sorry, I'm just making up these riffs on the spot, so I don't remember exactly what I'm playing. And the delay is just the icing on the cake. So, there we have it. That's just kind of where I wanted to start with your tone. Like I said, you want a big, probably a more Marshall-y-ish style tone. If you notice, even though my tone is thick, it has a lot of snap on those higher notes. There you can still hear the higher strings. It's not muddy, at least in my opinion, it's not. And it still lets you bend out of pitch just like that. So there's the first phase. Get your tone on. Now let's talk about the rhythm of 80s. Nice sweet, sweet delay. I had to turn it off. Because we're going to talk about some essential. We're going to talk about things that you need to write 80s riffs. Now, there are quite a few staples. Obviously, the pedaling on the A or the E or just any note is going to get you in the 80s realm right away. Metal is 80s metal is that. So, obviously, there's a lot of power chords, and I recommend, I basically view them as 4 different versions of a power chord. Now, they're not, but I'm just saying this is just how it works in my brain. If I'm trying to write an 80s riff, I view these essentially as all different versions of a power chord. I'll state it again, they are not all power chords. Some of them are utilizing your third, but it's just how it works in my brain. So, for example, if we were to do an A power chord, well, that's not 80s. Ah, 80s. There we go. A lot of the power chords are done on the higher strings. And you get that open low E string. Now you can do them. There's plenty of great 80s riffs written on the lower strings, but when I think 80s tone, I think of like George Lynch, Reb Beach, all these guys, you know, who There he goes. Notice how he's all on these higher strings. So this is an A power chord, an octave higher. Now, what can you do with this power chord? Well, you can play it like that, for one. If you want to go straight Lynch on this power chord, Jesus. This is the Lynch move. He likes to raise that fifth. So all I'm doing is playing 7 on the D and then 9 on the G, but then I'm adding that 10 on the G. Okay, so that's kind of like the George Lynch style of doing it. He does other ones too, but that's just who I saw doing that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like in his, what was it? He does it a lot. All over the place. Now, the other way that you can kind of work this power chord is to do what I just did. Okay? Still out of A, but basically what I did is I dropped my fifth. So I'm still playing 7 on the D, and instead of playing 9, I go to 8. Okay? Now, the other one, of course, is just straight, both of them. Now, that actually changes chords. That is changing it to a D power chord. But these are all different versions that you can utilize and figure out which one sounds best. So, all those are going to work and sound great. Now, the next one is what I consider to be the Kiss power chord. My friend Jeff, if you happen to watch this video, who's a huge Kiss fan, showed me this chord a long time ago. It was either Jeff or my buddy Rusty. It might have been Russ, actually, who showed me this first. But anyways, it's basically the same power chord shape. This is exactly why I play power chords with my pinky. Because I like to do this little drop down that they do to that major 7. So essentially, you have your power chord, so 7 and 9 again. And what Kiss likes to do, or like the hold on loosely power chord, all that kind of stuff, is they drop their finger down, their index finger. Now you have a major spin. So a lot of it that you want to do is either going to be major, minor, stuff like that. And you can decide what you want the riff to sound like. So if I wanted to do this power chord and give it a more major kind of 80s spin, I'm going to be viewing my A major scale, of course, not my A minor anymore, but I would go. I lost it there, but. Rough ideas, like I said, this is just all off the cuff, but right away I'm like, okay, that's cool. If I wanted to sound minor, I might go, oh nope. You can see how they both sound 80s, but in different ways. So that is kind of the premises of a lot of 80s rhythm. I'll show you one other thing that I got from Reb Beach. I saw him doing this a lot, which is from that Hungry. Is utilizing harmonizing in thirds. It's a really cool thing. Iron Maiden does it a lot. A lot of these guys, Scorpions, do this a lot. So you want to vision your A minor scale essentially on 2 strings, on the D and G. That way we can still pedal on that A string. So I'm viewing A minor. or C major, however you want to look at it, but I'm doing it in the context of A minor. So I'm going to do these different, I call them reverse power chords, essentially. It's utilizing your thirds. So I'm going to be playing 4 on the D and then 2 on the G. Okay, then I scoot up a little bit to here, scoot up. I was like confused what I was about to say. 5 on the D and then 4 on the G. Next one's going to be 7 on the D, 5 on the G. Okay, then I'm going to scooch up again. I guess this one I would end up going 9 to 7. So here you're going to be 10 and 9, 12 and 10, 14 and 12, and you can just keep going with it on and on and on, all the way up the scale. But like I said, you can do that, and those can add a really, really cool spin on your power, your like 80s riff. Boom, there we go. And I'll end with one more thing, just to kind of show you an example of what I'm talking about, as far as, you know, making something sound 80s and not rock and roll. That little ending thing, I won't be able to replicate it because I don't know exactly what I did, but like this idea down here. So I'll show you, this is like a rock version of what I just played. So if I did this little tag line at the end, a lot of 80s riffs always have these little tags, a really cool little fill riff at the end. So like this would be rock and roll. Rock and roll, 80s. Similar, but if you listen, you can hear the both. The rock has that twang to it, that major sound. 80s is gonna go. One's bluesy, one's more metal. So we'll end with that part. Oh, happy day, I got my mother drunk and delayed. Alright, so let's talk about some 80s lead tone. Ooh, I love it. It's pretty much the premises of my lead tone. This is the 80s sound. So what do you need? Lots of distortion, Marshall style amp. I'm playing the Friedman patch here on the Axe FX. And what else? What else do I have? I have lots of delay, lots of reverb. Listen to it. And my note selection is geared right around the A Aeolian mode. So if you don't know what that is, essentially that is your A minor. Some people call it your natural minor scale, stuff like that. I'll show you basically the root position of this scale. There's a couple different ways you can play it. I'll show you the way that I do it. And it's really so many 80s solos. George Lynch utilizes this scale a lot, with of course diminished and Phrygian and stuff like that. Yngwie uses it a lot again with all that other stuff. Warren DeMartini, all these guys utilize this scale a ton in their solos, and then they tweaked it out to make it their own thing. But essentially, if you don't know what the A Aeolian mode is, essentially it's just your normal minor scale. So if we're an A, if you want to keep it 3 note per string for sake of ease, this is a good way you can do it. You're going to go 5, 7, 8 on the low E, 5, 7, 8 on the A, 5, 7, 9 on the D, 5, 7, 9 on the G, 6, 8, 10 on the B, and 7, 8, 10 on the high E. Okay, so that is essentially your Aeolian mode. You might see it in books played like this. Oh, sorry. Both are, it's the exact same notes. I just do it the other way. That way I can keep that 3 note per string, and I like the more diagonal approach to it. So this one, a lot of the notes are coming out of this scale. Now when you're trying to compose a 80s style lead, they all have a lot of similarities, and it's certainly how I construct a lot of my solos, because it's just, you know, write the solos like your favorite ones to listen to. So there's a lot of building, there's a lot of melody in 80s solos. You know, I know it's like a shred era of guitar, but there's tons of great melody inside of these solos. It's just, they typically end with a huge shred fest, which is what I love. I love a building solo. Listen to even like Stairway to Heaven. That's a great building solo. You know, he ends with. But so like I said, for 80s leads, you know, you want to have this blend of melodic technique is what I would call it. So if I was to solo something just off the top of my head, try to come up with an 80s style solo. You know, some kind of flash there at the end. And then, you know, you might repeat that phrase again. Messed up there at the end. But so there's kind of like a 80s idea solo. But like I said, I think it has that 80s vibe. Now, one thing you want to watch, if you're not used to using a whammy bar, you don't want to do this all the time. You know, you don't go crazy with it. You either kind of like flutter is a great thing that you can kind of do. You know, something like that, where it's just that flutter. This is my tremolo is a little bit too tight. It's not the best for doing flutters. But you don't want to just like sit there and go crazy. You know, you add the bar tastefully, in my opinion. Or it sounds really cool when you hit a pinch harmonic and you dive it out. You know. Oh. I can already hear my ears starting to tweak the solo. And then you would kind of like end with some kind of like you like do the melody again or whatever, and then some kind of like shreddy. Maybe it's like, you know, whatever it's gonna be. But to me, that's the 80s sound. I love it. It just to me the guitars just sound massive, all that reverb and delay. And I don't know. Hopefully this video was helpful. Like I said, that's kind of the scale. I don't want to break down. Like I said, I'm just spitballing stuff when I'm playing, just improvising it. But it's such a unique, you know, iconic guitar sound, and I don't know, man. 80s where it's at. So get your guitars out, get your old Charvel, or if you don't have a Charvel, go get a Charvel. What, bro, come on, it's an 80s video. Come on, man. And yo, just have fun with it. So until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you all later. Get your 80s on, and peace out. Whoop.